Hi everyone. Probably I'll start with, I didn't realize it would be filmed, so I might just throw my original presentation out the window and just wing it. Might not be appropriate now that it's been filmed, so just kidding. This is a topic that's very close to my heart, integration. I'm a hardware engineer by trade. Been in the industry for 23 years, so I've come through the ranks right through from being Socitm motherboard, soldering the little diodes on there, to leading some big teams here in the UK and now in Australia. But the issue I've always had is that there's no single sort of true integration that you can really get. So I've been driving to get towards that. And with all those names up there, it's just, the more you try and integrate, the more that just keeps coming. And it's really hard to keep ahead of that. So I thought I just wanted to talk about that today and hopefully give you some insight. It is actually a strategy I'm pitching to our council, which I head up in Australia. It's the largest council in South Australia. And so I've just tweaked this slightly just to give you a bit of a more wider choice rather than me dictating what it is that you should have. So we'll move straight on. Just give you a quick overview, and I won't talk too much on that. Just give you a bit of insight to where I've been. Probably gathered by my surname. I grew up in South Africa, so I've had some experience, third world country if you like. Then come to a first world country as in the UK in 2001. Left here in 2012 to go to Australia, and I've been there since. And obviously I've been in Europe, US, and just seeing how different people do different things. And it's been very interesting to see, taking bits from different people's strategies, theories, and sort of try to put together something that hopefully will work. So moving on to where we are, some technologies that you'll really be familiar with. And again, it's just not all of them, it's just some of them. Probably just talk about one or two there for the moment. So something like gamification. I don't know if you've all seen the new Xbox, for example. I know it's a game, but what comes out of that is that for sign language, the new Xbox One, you can actually sign to it and it'll actually talk back, and vice versa. If you're talking to it, it'll then sign for someone that's deaf. So that's the use of technology as well. So I really find that really interesting, how technology can be used for gaming as well as for other needs. Some other interesting facts there, probably asynchronous communication, which I was looking into once. You wonder why when people don't do video phone chats anymore, they just do voice calls. It's quite interesting because you think with Facebook or with your iPad or your iPhone you can actually do all that stuff. But the problem is that when you're talking, so like I'm talking to you now, you're taking about 256K in at the minute. I'm talking kilobytes, but when you start looking at something visually, you're taking in 3 terabytes of data per second. So hence, that's why people don't want to be seeing, looking at you. You always, you'd rather do the asynchronous, which means you'd rather film it, tweak it, and then do it offline. So similar to what I'm doing now. It's live, it's a lot more interactive, you feel a bit more nervous, whereas if you can manage that, it's so much better. There's a lot of technologies that's come in, and this is what's, with integration is the big issue for us here. Just some stats I'll sort of just show you. This is particular to Australia, how from 2006, broadband and all the other technologies have been used. They just didn't have the 2012 one, but you can still see there's still dial-up, and I think it's 2% for this year still. Still people on dial-up with 2% in Australia, and it's just, in this day and age, you shouldn't really be on dial-up. And when you last heard the modem, and there's people still doing that, which is crazy. You can't believe that. I mean, you've got your 4G mobile phone and people are still doing that, so it's really interesting to see. And with Australia, the geographical location, it's just huge. So you can't get the infrastructure in the ground really. So just looking at other ways, hence the wireless is taking off quite big to cover those areas where the infrastructure in the ground is not there. Another interesting statistic for Australia. So it's 2006, on average, users are downloading about 2.6 gig a month per person. And that's gone up now on average, and those are the actual stats, but on average, probably about 8.6 gig of data per month. Interesting, if you look at it, 2025, we're going to talk about 1 terabyte of data per person per month download usage. And then going on to 2040 at 1 petabyte. So you can imagine that that's where it's all going, and these are stats that have been verified in terms of the technology that's going to be available. So it's not just downloading movies and stuff, it's just that you'll be interacting with everything around you. So we really need to see getting the integration to make it happen a lot easier, because it's so hard. I mean, I actually head up the technology, and it's just so hard to, because so-and-so wants to buy this piece of software, and this works for them, but that doesn't work. And it's just finding the right stuff. So we're trying to cobble everything together in the background, but it just doesn't work. Because at one point it's going to fail, and we don't have the expertise and knowledge to deal with all the different applications that everyone has. So moving on, another interesting statistic for you just for a moment. World population in the green, so it's 7.195 as of this morning, I think it was, billion people, and 2.8 billion people online. But if you look at the next data, 2020, you can see there's a big jump to 5 billion people online by 2020. Currently there's, so those are the stats of the population, but the connected devices is 10 billion connected devices to the internet currently. It's just, you know, each of you got your mobile phone, you've got a tablet, a laptop or something, but it's this phenomenal amount of connections to the internet. Just briefly on some of the future technologies that's coming, you may or may not have heard some of those, but and obviously this is where we need to still manage for going forward as well. Never mind what we got now, is where we're going forward still as well. So the integration is going to be really, really key to where we go with that. So I just wanted to do that as a backdrop to my presentation, just to give you a bit of insight of what's there, what's coming. So we'll start with my vision. This is a vision, as I said, I've created for the council itself, of doing integration. Quite a big statement in itself, but I thought if you don't make a big statement, you probably won't get there. And if you don't get to 100%, then if you get to 8%, well, you're better off than where you were before. So hopefully, I think it's realistic and it's achievable, and I've done it before here in the UK, so I'm just going to hopefully be able to replicate that using newer technology. So what does that mean? Hopefully it doesn't get too techy, but down the bottom, what I'm proposing that they have 3 single vendors. So basically on the hardware side for the server end, the back end, for the techie guys, one vendor, whatever that is. So they'll provide the servers, the switches, all those type of things. So it's one platform. On the user side, again, on your desktop, so what you use as a user, your tablet, or phone, etc. And then the operating system for all of those is hopefully one vendor. Now, it probably sounds a bit scary if you want to go down to one vendor, but it's going to be a lot easier to manage, I think, effectively. But obviously there's some rules that apply to this, so this is my vision, but obviously it's got to meet the business requirements. And then lastly, just the user applications that you have on your desktop that you're interacting with. So that's what that vision from a software and a hardware platform looks like. So this is just an example, and unfortunately I had to put Microsoft in there. I didn't particularly want to do that, but if you were looking at that software in that layer, this is achievable now already. So it's not you have to wait 5 years to do this. Microsoft or another could do this in that same space already. So we just need to use the right technologies to go down that route, in terms of servers, core applications, your user desktop, etc. So it all exists already. So it's not something you have to go and reinvent or go and find out. So that's just an example of that. And then similarly on the hardware side, the servers, the storage, all that, one vendor, particularly, and I didn't use the name there, but if you know your devices, you'll probably see what that is, and similarly for on your desktop. One thing you'll probably notice which is missing is I didn't include a desktop PC. I don't think desktop PCs will be there going forward in our strategy. It will be a tablet. We currently use the tablet that's there. It's a Samsung tablet, not that I want to pitch it, but it's more than an iPad. It's probably your proper Windows environment, so you can actually run a proper desktop. I don't have a laptop, I don't have a desktop, I just have that. Take it with me, I do my work on it, I'm done. I have a big screen in the office when I sit there, and that's what I use. And we push that out through the organization. We probably have 40 managers already using those. We just got rid of the desktops. It's just so much easier. So it's about just setting that platform and just seeing if it works. So that's also part of the pilot program, rather than just saying, hey everyone, you're going to have this. So this gives you a bit of a flavour of what I'm aiming for. And if it doesn't suit you, that's fine, but it's just an idea, sort of a Nevada. Hopefully you can get to that point. So, but that said, so that was my wishes. Now this is the business wishes, which should come first, as you said earlier. So stakeholders obviously need to decide what they want. But then sometimes they also don't know what they want, so that's where we need to work together, tell them what's possible. But they then have a business requirement. We need to sit down with them and discuss that. One thing I have done is I've actually mandated that through the business, we actually do integration. So if you're going to buy some software, it has to talk to SQL. That's the only requirement currently. And the reason for that is to do your reporting at the end of the day. So you want the data, as you said earlier, and you said, can't you push a button? Well, that'll make sure that when you do push the button, you can get the data straight away. So it's not all this integration trying to talk to 40 different systems, and it costs you, millions of dollars to spend money to try and get this one system to talk to the other system. And then half the time it doesn't work anyway. And then moving forward, so if you do go to the cloud, and this is the buzzword lately, but it's got to be cost effective. And we're currently doing that example right now. And actually, it actually works out $2 million more to go to the cloud now. So that's not a good option for us to go there. At least I can quantify that in showing that in doing that, we're not ready yet. But you'll be probably more ready in the UK because you have better infrastructure than Australia at the moment. But I mean, there are places in the UK that probably not so far from you that don't have internet either. So, yeah, horses for courses, you need to look at that. But if you're going to go there, it's got to be cost effective. You've got to have resolution SLAs, not response SLAs. You know, pick up the phone, I've responded, hello, goodbye, and then it gets fixed. That doesn't help you either. It's got to be a resolution. And then your wide area network, if you've got more offices than one, needs to have high availability. So if the one line's, particularly in London, they'll dig through the roads a lot, they'll dig through your fibre or your other connections and you've got no internet. And particularly if you're in the cloud, you need to go connect to it through a different route. So hence, those that need to be in place. So this is the business requirement process that we go through. So similar to Ellen was saying, you sit with your colleagues on the program board. We have a similar board, the Enterprise Project Management Office, where we sit, but it's actually all the managers sit around and we actually discuss the 16 different parts of the business. Any requirement comes through, so you can actually go, hey, I've got a great idea, lock that on the intranet, and it automatically comes into phase 2 there, where our financial business partners or the ICT program will, if it's an IT thing, will look at it. Go, okay, that is, it's a viable option, let's have a look at it for you. If it is, then you can sit and do a business case. We do the proper business case, and that gets presented to the program board, similar to yours. They then look at that, make a decision. Currently, there's a dotted line around the executive. It's going there at the moment. We felt that's a bit of bureaucracy because if they're empowered to do something, they should make a decision. But similarly, the executives need to feel comfortable that the people on the EPMO are making the right decisions. So that's why that's there, and then obviously you do the reporting. So that's the framework that we're using to manage what I'm pushing from IT and what the business needs. And that's the sort of check and balance which needs to give out. So this is the roadmap that I've come up with. Excuse all the colours. You'll see them, they're coming to use later. So I'll change it slightly because I said this is actually the presentation I was going to do for our council, which I'm doing on the 18th of December when I go back. So I've just changed it modestly, but based on my experience and history, all the reviews I've done in different companies, different countries, there's a certain history and trend that happens, and that's pretty generic across any country, company, private, public, doesn't matter, it's all the same, really. With a few nuances, but that's it. And then obviously looking at the current state of where you are now, and these are the options there. So you've got option 1, go to the cloud now, is it viable? If it is, transform it to there, then do your application rationalization phase 1 and 2. Or option 2, do it in the middle, so you can save some money. Or option 3, which is the one I'm proposing, is that sort of you do your test systems in the cloud so you can get used to the cloud, see if it's viable, what's the problems with it, is it going to work? Then do phase 2 application rationalization and then move to the cloud. Because then you know exactly what you're putting in the cloud before you get there. Otherwise, in option 1, you're just putting what you got into the cloud. It obviously costs you a lot of money, so it's not really efficient. But those are options that you can consider. And I don't want to tell you which one you need to choose. That's your prerogative. And then hopefully you should end up at the same type of place. So this is typical key findings when I've done doing ICT reviews at organizations. Hundreds of core applications and non-applications. It's just hundreds. And someone was telling me earlier, there's like 1,000 applications of this other platform. I was like, really? And they've got 8 guys in IT trying to manage it and go, but no chance. How do you do nothing? Because you can never have the expertise to manage all those different types of applications, and yet alone get them to talk to one another. So that's what this is about. Obviously, again, also the information asset management is really, really bad. So people don't know where their assets, where their information is, how it is, paper, what's in it. So that's the key driver coming out there. Best practice. Either it's implemented and they don't follow it, or it's not even implemented at all. So something like ITIL, the framework for how to manage IT, just doesn't exist in a lot of places. And you would think people would have it in. The infrastructure, so the actual physical hardware and networking, the infrastructure in the ground, again, either poorly designed or doesn't allow business continuity, disaster recovery. So when your system goes down, you just can't work. And then lastly, once you've done that, the actual structure for the staff, the team, the IT team supporting it, it's just wrong. It just doesn't work for the business, and yet alone for the people. So that's what I found in the reviews, and then obviously those are the recommendations. I won't go through all of them, but it's basically just what I said, just you need to fix the findings really. So it's not hard, it's not rocket science, you just need to do it. But people just find it's too hard and they have the time to do it. Or even just to do the review in the first place. Then basically let's have a look at where we are now. So most people are sort of in this area or thereabouts. So basically that's what I'm saying, this is where you are now. So your next step is deciding where you want to go with as an organisation. So what I've said is, that chart we had earlier, so you've got your cloud transition, do you want to go there now? And you can do it now. It's just, I say for us, it would have cost us $2 million to do that on top of what it's costing already. So it's not a financially viable, but you can still do it. Doesn't say you should do it. So let's have a look at that. So transitioning to the cloud, so I've said obviously December 2014, it'll all be done and dusted. If you went down this route, you take a year, transfer all your stuff. What you need to decide is really, you've probably heard all of the stuff here, the IaaS, so IaaS, platform as a service, software as a service, and then you need to decide whether you take your production, so your live servers, your test systems, or your disaster recovery sites into the cloud as well. So that's what you would do in this scenario. So what I thought I'd just do for the people that didn't know the difference between those. So basically most people that sort of support their own systems on site is the green block here on the left, so on-house, in-house or on-premise. You do, your IT team does all that stuff for you. And they'll have some other partners outside, but generally they supply all that. So infrastructure as a service is really the orange bit that you're outsourcing or letting someone else do for you. And your in-house team will do the green bits here. Platform as a service is just the two top bits that you do in-house, and the rest someone else does for you. And obviously the last one is everything someone else does for you. Not to lead you down this path, but in my experience, probably the middle one is where you probably want to be, but some control around your applications and data, and someone else is managing your hardware and all that type of stuff. So that's probably why I would pitch that. Sort of like the Goldilocks, just right version for me anyway. But you as your business need to decide where you want to be. So we'll compare that, and then obviously you'd start with your core applications. You'd have a core application register. I don't know if some organizations don't even have that. We know how many applications you got, who's using them, how much does it cost. So I've done a complete audit of that, so I know exactly, to the cent, how much that's costing us in maintenance. So based on this analysis for us as a council, I'm talking cross purposes, but that actually make us a $1.5 million saving first year, cash, in hand, by rationalizing our applications. Whether you do it in whichever stage, you still, obviously you'd save it sooner if you did it sooner, but by doing it, $1.5 million cash. But then the non-cashable is $5 million non-cashable. So that's based on $30 per person per hour. Information is not being managed properly, and when you're making decisions on information that's actually you don't know about, which is in those other hundreds of systems where people store your data. So if you knew all the information, you'd be able to make the right decision. And that's based on the statistics just for our council. So to give a bit of insight there. So you need to decide when you're going to do this, and probably your non-core applications, so none of the big systems, you would probably do first, and really easy to do, and quick wins to get them off and out into a consolidation area. Your phase 2, which is coming up, that's all your core systems, so that's like your financials, your HR, those are some big systems. So you need to do the planning. So if you decide to do the strategy, you already plan this part by the time you start. It needs like a 9-month leading just to start with your financial module. You need to start with your finances, get your chart of accounts right, and then from there your whole business will flow to get that whole ERP, enterprise resource planning system in. So just some planning that you need to do, and then ultimately you end up the vision. So that was just the option 2, just with the cloud in the middle of the 2, so I'm not going to talk about too much about that. So just switching when you went to cloud. And then lastly, the option 3, which I'll talk a little bit more about. If you did start, and I'll put the dates in because this is the dates I'm actually planning to do this, but you could change those around. Your application rationalization in the first stage, those non-core applications, get rid of them. Then put your test system into the cloud. You can actually start testing and doing your testing there, which you can turn on. You don't need to do pay as you go rather than having it on all the time. So that's where your savings could come in already. Then you rationalize again in phase 2, all your core applications, so that when you put it into the cloud, you save all the money, and that's your services are ready to go. You can access them anyway. So I'll just run through those. the 3 iteration of the first one. And yeah, so then you end up there. So what does that look like? So I'll try to do a technical, historical view of what I've just spoke to you about there. So in the back end, your normal servers, storage or SAN, rack mount, and some virtualization. You've got all the core applications down the middle there, and lots of extra little ones. And then you try and extract the data into some little data marts, some little storage areas, to be able to then report on via some applications and stuff. And just a general sort of quick, hopefully, view from the front of what it looks like. So that's where I started at the council, but this is the same approach I've seen everywhere. People have this, and then you go through iterations of, then it looks like this, then you've done some changes, so you've now sort of rationalized. You can see there some of these non-core systems that do under the data warehouse, so they become part of the data warehouse. So you have one data warehouse, but you've still got some core back-end systems. Some people will put in like SharePoint or the likes of those type of things as an intranet to allow collaboration. And in our case, we actually have the extranet and intranet on SharePoint at the moment. We're just about to do our website, so all three will be on that platform. But it's not about the product so much, it's about the solution, rather than saying which product. It's not about Microsoft or this, it's just as long as it works for you guys. This is where we're going to right now. We're in this stage of actually having this really streamlined 3 back-end systems only, which is quite a move from the current 248 that we have. We have 248 applications back there in the core end, and I say core because that's core to the whole the council. We have 735 staff, and we manage a geographical location area of 558 square kilometres. So metropolitan and rural in our council area. So it's quite diverse in the type of services we do. Like yourselves as well, you have so many different things, but you need to start rationalising going down this route of getting the integration. So if you, by choosing the single vendor platform, getting integration in there, there's less to integrate with, and it's easy to get your data around. So ideally, this is the last step once you go to the cloud. So you'll just have your desktop infrastructure on your desk, you have your usual security in place, and in the cloud, you'll have your data. And coming from the other side, obviously, your website and other people coming in to your organization where everything's funneled in. So the whole idea of this strategy is to really rationalize everything internally, try and make it one system as far as possible, and then be able to accept multiple or anything from the outside in, rather than having multiple inside and outside to deal with. It just makes data so much easier to manage. And the main reason for doing that is not just for my benefit. Yes, it will help IT, obviously, and my guys will be very happy. Because it's less to support, and they can be really skilled at what they do rather than kind of being jack of all and master of none. But it's more for this, is the recording for the business. So when you push a button to get your dashboard, push it, or in real time your recording's there, that's what you need. You need an integrated system to deliver your information. So that's where I'm pitching my strategy, and obviously there's a whole lot of technical details behind that, but hopefully I'll pitch it at a high enough level not to bore the guys going so much geeks like me, but give you just a higher view of something to think about. I know it's in Nirvana, but happy to hear that. So thank you.